Good evening. We'd like to welcome you all to the Elmore County Commission work session dated Monday, February 7, 2022. We'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who are with us tonight. We'd like to recognize Superintendent Richard Dennis, Representative Mike Holmes, Superintendent Brock Nolan from Tallahassee City Schools. I know we have numerous members of the Elmore County Board of Education, other elected officials. I'll forego calling you all out by name, but we certainly appreciate you being here, and Jimmy Harris from the Millbrook City Council. So thank you all very much for being here. We also have Probate Judge John Thornton with us. Tonight's meeting, for those of you who are with us for maybe the first time, this is an opportunity for us to, I anticipate most of you are here to hear from Superintendent Richard Dennis. But I think it's important to note that tonight the County Commission will be hearing from Superintendent Dennis, but we will be having a public hearing. Tonight we will be setting the date for that, and that public hearing will take place 3 weeks from now on the 28th of February, same time, same place. So that will be at 5 p.m. on Monday, February the 28th. We will begin with our regular business, a review of the minutes of the January 24th, 2022 Commission meeting. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, we will proceed. Review the memorandum of warrants for the period of January 15, 2022 through January 28, 2022. Any comments or questions? Mr. Byer?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for that time period, the memorandum of warrants was $1,716,588.45.
All right, thank you. All right, we will begin our new business section of our meeting tonight by hearing from Superintendent Richard Dennis of the Elmore County Board of Education. Mr. Dennis has been invited to this meeting to provide a presentation about a recent decision made by the Elmore County Board of Education to pursue an ad valorem tax increase in Elmore County. Mr. Dennis.
First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here to present. I do want to thank my board members who are joining me today. I have also my CSFO with me, Jason Mann. He'll be assisting at times for explanation on some of the financial points as we begin this overview. I would like to first begin by saying that over the last 5 years, just briefly, what we've tried to do is I've gone through, assess the system. That's every school district to see what we needed program-wise, what we needed facility-wise, maintenance-wise, and then start to address those situations. In that process, we have been we've done a $50 million bond, which we started our projects with and started making improvements, so we'll review that. We worked on putting ourselves financially or fiscally in responsible position so that we could account for everything, improve every area that we could do savings on as much as possible and improve those as well, and work on really the pointed area that we wanted to improve on was take advantage of funding that we receive for infrastructure improvements. And so that's something that we really need to look at involving technology in the schools, and also just physical plants improvements, which you're going to see some of the things that we've already accomplished, those things that we'll continue to focus on regardless of what takes place. We just will drag it out over a longer period of time until we're able to accomplish those goals. So to begin with, just as an overview, I'd like to, and I'm going to punch forward there, that overview if you would, continue, just to give you an idea of like total revenue on what we're looking at right here. And Mr. Mann, you're welcome to jump up here at any time and assist. But overall, you get a breakdown on our overall budget and the different areas on this pie chart that make up our budget. So I wanted you to be able to look at that, see what we had here, and as far as our budget and where the money is going as far as revenue, where that comes from. And there's your various components, the 1 cent sales tax, the 10 mills that we have available, and other revenue sources. Next one. Next chart, you'll see the expenditures by category. And so you'll see The largest chunk of our budget, obviously, is salaries in education. That's not a surprise. That's the way it typically is. And then you get to the capital outlay and employee benefits that we have as part of our program. Those are your three big ones. So we have obviously a lot going on with the capital outlay at this particular time with our bond issue and other funds that have come in from federal and state levels. You see the 21-22 projected expenditures there, and the percentages they make up and the amounts as part of our projected budget. And that's from a finance standpoint, that's just a picture shot, a snapshot overview of what our budget is. We have it on file. It's about that thick every year, so it's available to those who might be in the audience that want to proceed or look at it. It is available for them to review. This next chart you'll see is our ADM. And on our average daily membership, that's the way we're funded by the state, and that's 20 days after Labor Day. So what we did is, I've been in 5 years, went back, and you can see over the last 5 years, we've increased 662 students, and that's in daily membership during that time period. The other number you see on the right are students that are pre-K, preschool students that do not actually they're not counted in our numbers. You do not see them reflected in our numbers. The state does not count those. Those are additional students that we do have, and we are working in our communities to support those programs so that parents have those programs available to them and we have waiting lists in most communities at this time. All right, student-teacher ratios. So currently what you see up there is in Elmore County what we earned from the state and what each age group is currently earning. You can see the divisors at the top. The K4 area, they're funded at 14.25 to 1. At the 4 and 6 grade levels, 4 and through 6, the 20.43, that's the highest to 1. And then you get 19.7 for the 7th and 8th grade, and then you drop down to 17.95 funding. That's what the state funds us for on students in that age range. If you looked and saw the lowest classroom totals, you're going to see that at the high school level. One reason is in the last 4 years, well, actually 5 years now, we've increased our career tech program participation and dual enrollment program from 350 to over 1,000, which helps take advantage at a high school level to reduce that number on the base campus to some degree with those units added in. That's very helpful, and I will tell you that it's an important asset there. I'll explain that in a minute when we get to capital improvements. The next one here, that just breaks down by teacher or by school. It tells you the number of units earned, and then if you look over there on the far right, you'll see the additional units that they have. And that's 51.41. If you were to go back a few years, you're going to see that number shrink to probably less than 15. That'd be a more accurate number that we would probably carry. But with the COVID funding that we've received, we've brought in additional personnel to help that number. And while we have that funding, we are able to support some of these additional numbers. People are asking what it cost us, and this is with benefits. So if you're looking at personnel cost, this is what we would pay for the average teacher in these categories. Basically, this is just average, like 5 years, I think. If you were to look at if you have somebody that's got 30 years, they're going to make more, but this is average in that category. I'd like to give you a facilities overview, kind of sharing projects that we've completed in each of the areas. Some areas drew more attention than others, and that's just because of my preliminary survey of the entire campus or of the entire county. I guess I found areas that I felt needed more attention. So as we go. In Eclectic, we just finished this past year a security entrance on front of Elmore County High School, and then we've added LED lighting to the softball field, and we've done all our campuses with LED lighting as well. So that's in there. In the Hopeful community, we worked on the traffic loop at the elementary school, the security entrance at the high school, new baseball, softball locker room, new gym floor, and then LED lighting for the softball field and throughout all the campuses. In the Millbrook, Cusata area, you've got a new traffic loop at Cusata, so I can take anybody and everybody that lives in Cusata, I can take them off the road. That's a little humor if you've dealt with the traffic over there. I will tell you that the Hopeful community is another area that's of concern, and the Eclectic community is of concern. Going back to the Eclectic community, last week the board approved purchase of 3 pieces of property. One of them will be utilized to resolve the traffic problem that the mayor has reached out to me and talked to me about in front of Eclectic Elementary. So we will be addressing that situation. With Millbrook, though, we've got the new traffic loop, as I said, at Cusata. At Stanhope Elmore, we did a spine addition. That was the first project that we worked on. Remodeled the 100, 200, and 300 buildings. New band room. We're in the process of remodeling the cafeteria, lunchroom, and theater, and it'll have an art room also in that old area. We've got a new gym floor, LED lighting throughout those schools over there, and LED lighting on the softball field. You have a picture there to kind of show you what the new front entrance looks like once we did the enclosure and created the atrium effect there. If you can keep going. You go in, that's not actually Mustang's not white. The old one was white, but we've got bronze-style Mustang in the front entrance that's very impressive, and I think that's where it's the backdrop photo if you're a senior at Stanhope Elmore exiting. So that's that, and you have a new band room, choral music room that is most impressive. If you have an opportunity, would like to see that, you let us know. We'll be glad to allow you to tour it. It has a piano room in it. They've secured close to $100,000 worth of donated equipment or grants to pay for that new equipment that they have. So they've done a great job to build new uniforms on top of it. In the Wetumpka-Redland area, Wetumpka Elementary, we came in and we did reroute traffic the first year I was here to take it off of that congested area in front of the elementary school. So we did a loop in that area to redirect it. New gym floor at the high school. New softball locker room, public restrooms going in currently at the softball field. LED lighting on the softball field, LED lighting at all the schools in that area. At Redland, your new parking lot. I want to thank the county for your participation in that one as well. And then at Redland Middle School, we've got, a new middle school. So, yes, we've got a new middle school going in. It will open this next year. At a district level, built a new maintenance facility and a warehouse on our site. We have, at the Elmore County Technical Center, just opened, gained access to it this past week. And so we look to be moving into it on the 15th. We'll more than likely do an open house and a ribbon cutting ceremony probably sometime next month for a board meeting. It is very impressive, and so we were wanting everybody to see this new facility that we're going to be expanding our program for Career Tech and all the programs that are going into it. In addition to the Phase 2, which has just been approved by the board 2 weeks ago, and will hopefully be finished within the next year and a half. So once it's completed, it's going to be a very impressive facility. I think you'll be impressed by not only just the programming we're able to provide, but it looks like a college campus, and it's going to have an open courtyard area in the center with traffic or perimeter road to carry around traffic, which is really going to improve that situation. LED lighting in all the facilities to cut our costs. Replacing classroom carpeting with LVT. A lot of people did not understand this. Ran into opposition early on when I started it 5 years ago. I actually started dealing with this when I was a principal, and we used carpet in every room. And I had teachers at Wetumpka High School that had allergies, and I had to pay for it on my own general fund to get the tile put down because the people are allergic to it. We're having more and more people allergic to carpet. It's hard, or to germs or bacteria, viruses, or whatever that happen to be in the carpet holds it. So that's the reason we're actually making the move. I do not put carpet down anymore. We are going with tile. So we're systematically, when possible, trying to replace all our carpet with tile. Some of this carpet in there, I think, is the original carpet at Wetumpka High School, just to give you an example. And it's in pretty bad shape, but it's going to take time to actually do it because that's a huge project. Replenishing the bus fleet to earn 100% fleet renewal on funding. So for every bus that we have that's less than 10 years of age, we get the full funding for it on the state. As far as what this year it was at almost $8,000. So what does that mean for you? If you have all of your buses under 10 years of age, then I'm taking that 8, putting it in the bank so that we can then invest in our other buses. That keeps our fleet new. You have less maintenance issues that you're able to contend with, and typically less issues all around. We've actually, on the state audit that we went through, or that we had last year and this year we hit 0 findings, which is unheard of. And so that's very impressive, and I've commended my staff on that, especially my mechanics. They do a great job, but we're in a very good position now. We're going to continue to work to get those buses and keep them within the fleet renewal so that we continue to bank that money and keep the new ones coming in, because it saves us money all the way around. And but that's an investment that we're trying to make at an infrastructure level. Replacing the 10 to 20-year-old fleet vehicles. That's something that we've put while we've gotten rid of a lot of old vehicles, so buses, and we've replaced a lot of our older vehicles so that we have a newer fleet of vehicles to manage. Also in the district, we've worked on relationships with municipalities. Specifically, we have working MOUs with the city of Millbrook and the city of Wetumpka currently. We're doing joint projects. Anytime that our constituents can share on resources and property development, I think it's of utmost importance because we're serving the same people, and we're able to offer them more if we work together to accomplish that. And part of that is at 17 Springs, we're working with the YMCA, the County Commission, the City of Millbrook, and coordinating that and CETA to develop that program or facility there. Here in Wetumpka, working with the City of Wetumpka, and the County Commission's involved in the projects that we're working on here as well. So those are things we're going to continue to move and try to work with our municipalities and other government agencies to build, because it better serves our constituents. The way that I explain it to people is, if I'm a county superintendent, I represent the whole county. Brock's got Tallahassee up there, and we're going to work with him as well. But we represent the whole county, and we're trying to make sure that those cities and other local governments are included in that process. That's a one-end view. That's not the view I'd want to show, but it got stuck in there for the new Career Tech Center. That happens to be the aviation door there where the airplane is. We have an aviation department, so when you come, that's where we'll have our board meeting and do our ribbon cutting at that location. So that's the reason I put that picture in there. That's what I'm going to claim anyway. When we start talking about ad valorem, and the things that I have seen would be that to address needs in communities, we're operating at a foundation level in Elmore County, and I'll show you our millage in a few minutes. But we're operating at a foundation level, and we don't ever get far above that foundation level because we just don't have the funding to go that far. We've actually, with COVID, since COVID has hit, out of 137 school systems 3 years ago, per pupil expenditure, we ranked 130, well, out of 137, we were 134. And so over the last 2 years, taking advantage of the COVID funding, and I will just speak to the people of Elmore County really came to the table for us when other school systems were not out there serving, providing the food. Our people came to the table, as it were, and helped deliver food. And people don't understand that put money in the general fund of Elmore County. The pass-through that normally goes, I didn't have to do. That means that Elmore County's general fund is actually growing right now because of that very fact. My CMP program almost earned at that 1 year $4 million in a profit. So we had to write and explain to the feds how we were going to spend that money. We're reinvesting it in our kitchens and our cafeterias. Like Stanhope right now is getting an extended renovation on its kitchen. It's quite old, and so we're redoing it. We've done a number of renovations already. Wetumpka Middle School, I think we had one at Hopeville High School was done, Millbrook Middle. So we've had a number of them, but they're going to continue to reinvest that money back into their programs. Specifically where we have left off and what we're going to need to look at, though, I want to share with you those things that we're going to target as we go through and look at improvements in the community. In the eclectic community, basically one of the other things that the HVAC, if you're in Alabama, there's not a real choice. You're going to have air conditioning in Alabama, or, they're telling me I'm going to have to do it on buses, but right now we're using the 55-mile-an-hour air conditioning on our buses, and that's just going to be the way it is, because I will tell you the air conditioning on busing, that's a whole nother headache. In the schools, though, it's been a huge cost. We've got old air conditioners that we're having to go in and replace. We're really going to take advantage of our COVID money. We've got almost $10 million that we're using from ESSER funding that we will go in and work on air quality. So as much as possible, these funds that we receive from the federal government as part of that process, we're going to try to put back into the infrastructure in our schools so that you'll see that it's not something that just goes out the door in a year. It stays with us and we see the improvements. In the eclectic community, you've got HVAC replacements, carpet in the classrooms, and then at Elmore County High School, there would be additions made there. You would? So specifically, if I were to go and look at the eclectic area, one of the things you're going to have to address is the older portion. The elementary school's in very good condition. We get the parking or the drive cleared up. I think we're in good shape there. The middle school is in good condition. They have adequate spacing at this time. What we're going to plan and look at, though, long term would be the facility at the high school. You have new components up there, but one of the things we would look at is restructuring, or not restructuring, but adding kind of what Brock's doing at Tallahassee right now. You Leviva portables for a while, and you tear down the older section and rebuild it with new wings to basically set up what you see in a new high school at Elmore County High School. But that's really tying it into the existing new facilities they already have in place. In the Hopeful Community Child Development Program, it's actually breaking ground within the month and will be built across the street from the elementary school adjacent to the high school gym. If y'all know where the Wiley House is, it's going to be right across the street from it. And just the Child Development Program is huge in each community. We've got about 100 on the waiting list in Hopeville. That's how big a program it is. So it's something that we'll continue to support. The carpet replacement, HVAC, and then a new high school at Hopeville High School, that would be one. And that's a rendition of what we would try to look at, because we want to try to take advantage of the architecture in the Hopeful community on the old historic high school itself. And so that would be a concept that we would be looking at for that project. That is one of our fastest growing areas overall. For the Millbrook community, currently working on new tennis courts as part of our participation at 17 Springs. We're doing the same thing with LVT in the classroom, HVC replacements. We have a 10-room addition waiting to go in at Airport Road as needed. And when I say that, we have adequate space currently at Cusata Elementary and Millbrook Middle, and we'll be in a good position at Stanhope. Airport Road would be the one facility over there where we actually have to do classroom kind of additions because of limited space. For additional purposes, though, things that we would like to do, Millbrook Middle is actually the largest school in Elmore County with about 1,230-plus students, and they do not have a competition gym. That would be something that we would like to put in the plans. That's on our capital plan for the future. Stanhope Athletic Facility, and then the Millbrook Child Development Program long-term might be one that we would look at if funding was available, but that would be down the road. And if you kind of look at that, we'll just show you, that would be the middle school. That's a rendition of the location we'd put it. It would actually be on the back side of the campus facing the back of the visitor stadium at the middle school. That's the gym. The indoor practice facility, what we've done at Hopeville High School and Elmore County High School have taken their old gyms, gutted them, and for the most part, I think Eclectic left their bleachers on one side, but they've come in and created indoor practice facilities, which are a huge asset to high school programs. A lot of people think, and you'll see the weights in there, they're used for, in many cases, they'll have the weights around the perimeter. That's what Hopeville's done, and Eclectic. If you get a chance to see what they've done, your 2 6As do not have that available to them, but this would be something we'd look to. You got a lot of high schools across the state these days. It's not only used for, say, a football program because it's striped off that way, and I know you see it that way. Every program you have in your school will end up using this thing, from band to cheerleading to dance to you name it. They want to get in there and use it because it's a great practice area, especially when you have inclement weather. All right. I think that was Stanhope. Moving along. This is actually, if you'll back up, I'm sorry, real quick. That is the area that it's phase 3 of our improvements at Stanhope, and that's the hope of having that made available for Stanhope. They do not have an auditorium as such, but this would be an area where you take your old gym. It becomes a multi-purpose facility, similar to what you have, what Prattville High School has, an inset stage on one side, set of bleachers on the other. Then you could use the middle for any number of activities, but specifically for fine arts programs, it gives them a venue that they don't currently have. All right, capital plan for the Wetumpka-Redland communities, new tennis courts. We've actually invested with the city on new tennis courts at the stadium property. So if you're coming around the intersection where Hopeville Road crosses Bazemore Drive out there, you got that first section on the right. You kind of see it laid off. It's got some grass around it. It's a big area. That's where the tennis courts are expected to be, and that's an investment from the Board of Education for our high school so that they have a new facility and a place for their tennis courts. So that's something that we are already invested in on it. The same thing, we're replacing, it's a slow process, but changing out the carpet and putting tile, HVAC, Redland Middle School Classroom Addition. Redland is built for 800 students. We will actually be able to, and in our planning, we set it up where we could add 2 sections of a wing, 2 different wing sections that will double the capacity of that, so you can get as much as 1,600 in that facility as needed. So we're, for the time being, we're going to be fine, but that would be down the road. And what I'm projecting is what you're going to be in a position to do over the next 15-plus years. Athletic practice facility, and then a performing arts center, and then a Wetumpka Child Development Program Center that we would also be way down the road, but that would possibly be available. So if you would, I want to flip through and kind of show you what we're expecting. This is Redland Middle School. If you're looking at it and you've got the new wing added to it on the left. Okay, one more. That's an aerial view. The wing across the front and to the left, that one going back, That would be the section added. The rest of that building, the entire white rear section there, and the other two wings are a part of the new facility and will be a part of what opens in August, okay? That's what the courtyard might look like in the center if developed. One of the reasons we're doing and adding courtyards specifically at the middle school and elementary levels because of security issues, we like to give them an opportunity. And the way I describe it is a lot of times we get potential threats and we'll go on what we call soft lockdown. So we lock perimeter doors, but if you've got those areas in the center, it gives you an opportunity to take your students outside, whether they're eating outside or just going out, getting outside and getting some fresh air. So the courtyards are going to be something that we kind of plan in for a safety perimeter around the building and take advantage. That's what we're doing with our fencing when we're putting in, is trying to create a perimeter so that we can secure it whenever there's a need to or whenever we have a precaution that we're trying to take. Wetumpka High School, you've got a performing arts center. I guess when I was principal there, we built a new gym. And in the planning process, we left the gap between the new gym and what is A wing, which is the north side of that building, so that you could come back in and put some sort of performing arts facility, which would include, in this case, a facility for theater and for your band program. And that's what we'd like to do. The band actually has a practice field that we developed way back then that's in the back, so they would have access to it from the rear and be able to go to the band practice field. That's that facility. An indoor facility, this would be taking the existing field house and trying to build it adjacent to it, so you're kind of right off of it, improving the aesthetic look of that area out there. With the tennis courts gone, it makes it available there, and you still have your practice field, outdoor practice field. Okay? And it's basically, it just gave you an idea of what it would look like with the weights on the perimeter. So with the Elmore County Capital Plan, we have a virtual school that we've added in recent years. Obviously with COVID, it's kind of grown. We expect that to probably reduce over the course of the next year as students or parents feel comfortable returning to Bay Schools. We've got roughly 500 students that are participating in virtual these days. Some of those are from outside the system, but the large majority of them are Elmore County students. We're actually looking to add a parking lot because if you think about it, just for parking, we have hours they're required. We haven't gone out like some of these virtual schools and gone statewide. They have to come to us to test. So we're actually having to accommodate for them all showing up at one time and having a parking. So you can imagine, I think they've got close to 90 seniors that are listed there. So when they, like if you got one grade level in the high school that shows up to test, ACT or pre-ACT, those things get quite extensive and you got to spread them out and bring them in waves at a time to test. And so parking has become a commodity at that location. Potentially expand that facility just because sheer numbers. We really put it in the annex, and there it's a real tight fit for them, but we're making it work. We look at the Elmore County Technical Center, Phase 3. As I said, that would be the last one that would complete the loop around it. The HVAC, replacement of carpet, LVT in the classrooms, and then potentially some additions or adaptations at the central office as needed. The last one down there would probably jump up to the top of the list, and it's a new transportation, Elmore County Diesel Mechanics Bay facility. We've worked with the city, and they've actually looking at doing some trading of property. We're using it currently as, if you see the old baseball field across from the Career Tech Center has been fenced and lighted. We're using it to store buses, and potentially what we're trying to do is, if we get the opportunity, we would build a new transportation department there, and part of the transportation department would be diesel mechanics, which is another one of those programs that we're really being pushed to start because of the needs out in the community or in the service industries. So that would be in that area that we would add to our list, and that would probably be jumped up the list significantly. And if you flip through just a couple of pictures, that's what the front of it would look like with the bays in the back, and we would have a classroom and as a part of that facility. Flipping on. And this is really, I'm gonna let Rock speak to this one. This is, and let him explain. You might wanna come over here to do it, but I'll point out if that helps.
Hey, I'm Brock Nolan, Superintendent of Tallahassee City Schools. I want to thank y'all for this time this evening. Richard called me about adding on to this presentation. You may think, Tallahassee, we're building a new school. Well, we're building a portion of a new school. And so what would this ad valorem tax increase mean for us? Well, as Richard's over there, you can see the area in white. That's the 67,000 square feet auditorium and academic space that we're building currently. And if this ad valorem tax was to add on, we'd actually be able to move on to phase 3, which will be the orange right there. Currently, we're operating out of the annex, which was built in 1938. I have 11 classrooms inside of that building. And so this would allow us to leverage these funds, demolish that, add the additional classrooms on the back of the wings of the academic building that's being built currently, clear that space, and have the opportunity to move forward and possibly replace a 1938 gymnasium. And our new gym, we call it new, it was built in 1967. So if you come to Tallahassee and you say, go to the new gym, it's the one that was built in 67. And so that would be a primary and most salient thing that I would use this for capital improvements in Tallahassee.
So in looking at other, I mentioned earlier the basic things you've been seeing reoccurring have been carpet replacing, HVAC, buses, and then another one on there is roofing. I really, that's one that we're actually right now replacing 3 roofs on facilities, and so that's something that's an additional cost that we're having to do over the course of time as part of the maintenance upkeep and projects. As part of what we would also be looking to do for not only capital outlay would be programs and personnel necessary for those programs. I've listed here nurses, STEM, and co and extracurricular activities. We're right now funding, if you're familiar with our STEM labs, we put a STEM lab in all our middle schools and most of our elementaries. And that's kind of the lead-in to our career tech program. And I want to thank, I know Mike Holmes is here, and he was one of the very first ones contributing toward that cause. That's about $500,000 that we have spent, and a lot of that money has come through the legislative gifts to us to get those programs up and going. From a personnel standpoint, I'm using federal funds to ultimately help compensate to put those teachers in place. It's helped me since COVID, and I'm going to take full advantage while it lasts. We're attempting to have those. If you look at the divisors that you saw earlier in your middle schools, that's where your highest teacher-student ratios are, because you don't have the teacher units there for electives. That's one of the things we're pushing for. That's going to come out of pocket for Elmore County when we do it, or I have to lose them. The nurses, another thing that's been crucial for us, but it's not going to go away when COVID leaves. Yeah, we got bombarded with COVID, and I'm not going to get into COVID and debate that with anyone. We're going to try to run this thing and keep open as long as we can. I know that Tallahassee's doing the same thing, and when we have to, we go down, and so be it. But we did have times where it was very significant. The August, September was a peak, and then here coming out of Christmas vacation in January puts great strain on the system. I will just tell you that having to not send them home but for 5 days instead of 10 or 8 or 10 was huge, and that's what kept us in business and whether we were keeping most of our schools open because we could have them return. Having said that, the nurses are the ones carrying the brunt on that, quite frankly. What a lot of people don't realize, though, is what the new requirements, they're unfunded, and they're mandates that we have to live by. So right now, if you have a diabetic child at school and they go on a field trip, I have to send a nurse with them. We have to have one with a student participating in athletics. To give you an example, I had one who wrestled. A student had a health issue. They wrestled at 5 o'clock in the morning. The nurse was hired and had to sit outside while they wrestled in case something happened. That's what we're faced with that people really don't understand. And You look at our student body, we have all types of health issues that they contend with and that we're required by law to cover in some form or fashion. And I got Ms. Reagan here tonight. She could probably you could catch her after the program, and I'm sure she could tell you all the ins and outs on it that people don't understand and what that funding is, because they don't fund those nurses. That COVID money that we receive is really what's helping us offset those costs. So that would be another program need that we would look at along with STEM personnel. Okay? As far as the ad valorem tax, in Elmore County, you pay 10 meals because that's what the state requires you to pay. Amendment 3, countywide, you got the district one, which is 3, and then Amendment 382, which is 3, which is 9. There was 169, but it went out this past year. So in that Elmore County only had 9, the state came in and assessed 778. 778 is a state amendment, and so anytime you don't have 10 meals, it will go in and fill that gap and get you to 10 meals. Okay? So that's where we are currently with our funding. This is what we have to match the state foundation plan. So when you're looking at our list of our budget and they present to you the foundation match, that's what's paying for our matching. That's the match that goes in. And we get a lot more of that than we're putting in, but that's what we have to do as a system to be a part of that foundation matching program. Okay? So the value of the meal for Elmore County, Elmore County has a very strong meal, and I know a lot of local systems have looked to increase their millage. That's not something that we did, and I will say that I want to thank the previous administrations and board members in Elmore County because I think we have a very strong foundation as far as our facilities go overall, and perhaps are in a better position than some of the surrounding systems that are attempting to improve their situation. I'm just saying that. That's my perspective. Maybe I'm just proud and I'll say it. What I would tell you is that our millage is, say, one meal is, and it changes every year, it goes up and down, but it's a strong meal, one of the strongest in the state, $1,081,976.69 according to that right there. So if you project an increase in 8 meals, that's $8,655,813.52. Well, just to go back, drop back one slide. Oh yeah, that's 778. If I have 778 and then I get 8 voted meals, I got to backfill 778. That means I'm really only going to net 7 meals. So you can move forward. So if you subtract 1 meal off of that, that gives me $7,573,836.83. In the amendment, it is written for 1.5 meals would be the max that I could use on program and personnel to support that. If you take that amount out, that's about 1.6 million. And then if you look at what's left, the capital use for capital outlay and so forth, construction and improvement in that manner, you see 5.9 million. So that's the funds that would be available for Elmore County to program and leverage for funding, okay? That's just a current kind of review there. If you were to go in and sink it in, depending on how much you wanted to sink in, that's about the amount of funds you could get. Frankly, there's no way I'd want to go for that much money all at one time. You'd want to do that and spread it out to do the projects as needed as you were trying to complete them. But that just that's an idea of what you would be able to access with that funding. The thing I would tell you is, it's like somebody asked me about a new high school. There are high schools right now being built in this state that are $75,000 and $80,000. I heard of one that they projected the cost of $120 million for. There's no way I'm going to be able to go in and put a high school in Elmore County for $75 or $80 million or $120 million. That's just not going to happen. We've had to be very frugal in the way that we do our projects. Every one of our projects, except for two, came in under budget. So right now, the difficulty with all the things that in construction, the chain of supply and so forth, those are things that are definitely going to play into whatever we do in Elmore County, regardless of whether we get additional millage. That'll be a factor for us because we can't maximize, we will not be able to maximize and get the most for our money in those situations. But just to kind of give you an example, this would be what would be available if you had those fundings, so you could turn and do some projects along the way and make a major difference and make a commitment to a high school. For example, just to give you an idea, the Redland Middle School portion that we're building, which is the biggest project overall, is right at was a $23 million project. I would say that it would go over 30 if we were having to bid it today, easily. So just real, in a nutshell, I know I kind of sped through that, but wanted you to have an opportunity to see where we are in Elmore County and as far as public schools, and make that available to you. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. If you'd stay here at the podium, I'm sure that some of my fellow commissioners and myself have a few questions with regards to the presentation. I do want to commend you for the professional nature in which you've put this information together and provided us with a clear understanding of not only the things that are currently happening in the Elmore County school system, but many things that we may not be aware of, that you've provided some insight, and I commend your board on your vision and the recognition that you have for the fast-growing nature of our county. So I'm going to turn the time over to my fellow commissioners for any comments or questions, and then I will round it up.
Yes, Superintendent Dennis, two questions, actually. By this increase, do you or Mr. Mann have where we'd be at with other counties with ad valorem tax, number one? And I see he's reaching.
He's making notes. So
Exactly.
We can get that for you.
Which is going to be asked out there.
Right.
I'm
Yes,
sure it's
sir.
going to be asked 100
Understood.
million times. Where do we rate? And the next thing is when's the last time actually Elmore County has had a ad valorem tax increase, true tax increase? Would someone be able to answer that one?
I will tell you, I think, and don't quote me on the actual year, but when they started requiring the 10 mills, I think it was around 2002, 3, 4 in there. And so that's when Elmore County only had 7 voted mills at that time. And so 778 came into effect, and there were 3 mills of 778 up until 3 years ago or 2 years ago, when we renewed those taxes and had another voted mill put in place that was a 3 mill. And so that gave us actually 10 at that time, but since that time, 169 has gone out. So,
I do want to say one thing. Most of the county systems that are our size are
Yes, sir.
city systems.
Yes, sir.
So there's a lot more city millage that's passed than the county.
Okay,
So when we compare ourselves county to county, it's a little difficult when you look at apples to apples.
right.
So I'll put that in the data too.
Yeah.
We pulled that data. A lot of it is city systems that are able to pull a lot more municipal dollars and municipal millage than we are as a county.
Okay, no problem.
and as far as size goes, people don't realize it, and we're actually the 13th largest system in the state.
That was going to be my next question there. Okay.
And I did leave Mr. Byer over here has a listing of all, I think it's 143 school systems, and they count charter schools individually as systems. So it's really about 136 or 37 school systems, county and cities, but it ranks them, and it gives you their ADM, which is their attendance, in other words, and Labor Day, which is their funding OFOV. And that's one of the main things on there, though.
Well, I want to commend you for a great presentation. And, we just had the Principal of the Year for the state, I understand, it's hopeful also, which that shows our education system is working well here. And our schools, I noticed, are rated some of the top schools when they compare it against a lot of the other
Well,
county
and
schools, too.
I shared it with the board. A lot of people don't realize it either, but overall system comparison, I believe we came in on 120, on a ranking like all your systems ranked, you rank the city systems ranked from started out the number one. Typically, you get around the Over the Mountain crew up there, and Mountain Brook was 1, Vestavia 2, right on down the pike. Auburn City was 7. One of the things I talk to my people about is we compare ourselves against Auburn City because they have a very strong academic program. And I said, that's what you want to compare yourself to, and try to, if you're going to compete with somebody, compete with that group. That's what you want to compete against. And they have very strong academic systems. We're the first county system that actually shows up on our ranking, and I think that was, we were 23rd in the state out of 130-something schools, 8 school systems. We're I think the first county system to show up in that ranking.
Thank you.
And that takes into account all testing from 311.
Well, Superintendent Dennis, I just want to add that that was a phenomenal presentation to explain to us as the commission, as well as our citizens here in Elmore County, exactly what those funds will go towards. We never truly know what is needed for our students. And we are blessed to have a Board of Education and yourself to look out for the best interests of our children. And we appreciate it, so thank you.
And I do want to commend the board and thank them. They are greatly appreciated, and they all have special talents. When dealing with different areas, they all have their strengths, whether it's finance, just management in general. And so I want to thank them for what they bring to the table, because I really couldn't do the things. We draw on their expertise when we're making these decisions.
We certainly appreciate your leadership, Dr. Nolan. Thank you for being here. It's an exciting time in Elmore County. I've lived in Elmore County for 49 years, and I can't think of a more exciting time. And if you just look around us, we're so blessed, and I can attest to the quality of education in Elmore County. My kids went through the system, and now my grandkids, and I can attest to the fact that when they got to college, they were ready, thanks to this wonderful school system that we have. It's because of your leadership, this wonderful board, the school teachers, the service personnel, all the way down the pike. It's so impressive to see all of the accomplishments that you highlighted tonight and the proposed accomplishments through capital improvements. And quite often I have the opportunity to talk to people who are considering moving to Elmore County, and almost without exception, the first question is, how's your educational system? And I'm glad to tell them. I'm always glad to tout that. And thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for all you do.
Well, I'm gonna tout this right now, since I've got an audience and I got some media over here and there are people behind me. If you're talking about the crisis in education right now, the number one crisis that people in this state need to be aware of is the shortage of teachers. And it is very real. It is very significant. And when we're talking about qualified candidates coming in, there are people that are not, there are areas, they're not even in the pipelines at your colleges to come in and actually and be ready to teach. I know in my region here, all the way from Elmore County to the Auburn line, in November, there were still 145 teacher positions unfilled. We went through first semester, and I had a group of students who had a substitute in math all the way through December. I just got a college intern hired to fill that position. Now, we're in a much better position than a lot of other people. And so I just wanted to take that opportunity. We're in the same meetings. He can tell you those are very real. Our perimeter counties on the perimeter of the state are taking a beating right now because they're getting just raided. And I know that it's an area right now that we've taken. I won't lie. I'm not purposely trying to take your teachers, right? But I think he's actually maybe taking some of mine. But we've had to resort. We do, and we work together. Every once in a while, we got to compete against each other. But that, to me, and so you're aware, that is the number one crisis I think our state's going to face, because that's an impact. And that's not even, don't get started on virtual teaching to students that have been homeschooling and stuff with COVID, because that's a whole nother story. But that is a crisis that you need to be aware of as a county commissioner, and how it's going to impact your environment in the future.
Mr. Dennis, I appreciate what you and the board and Tallahassee City Schools are doing to identify the needs of our students. This is our future in Elmore County. And we all know that it's hard to find a piece of land in Elmore County that you can afford. It's hard to find a house that you know, if it stays on the market a day sometimes, that's odd. That's growth. We appreciate what y'all are doing to identify the needs of our students and our citizens and embrace that growth, and let's try to manage it and do what's best for those that we serve, you know, and not just know what we need and be scared to say it and ignore it, because that's not serving the citizens of the county that we all work for. So I appreciate y'all's approach to this and everything that you're doing for the county. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. I certainly appreciate my fellow commissioners and their comments. I think that it goes without saying again that we certainly appreciate you being here tonight and appreciate the presentation and the information. A couple of quick comments and questions that I have. One, several times in your presentation, you said we are funding these things with COVID money while it lasts. So what do you mean by that, and what kind of time frame are you referencing in terms of while it lasts?
Well, with the COVID funds in slide 3 in your packet,
Yeah, grab to the mic.
in your packet, on slide 3, it goes over the revenues that are budgeted. Of those total revenues, 14% of those are made up of COVID funds. So it comes out to about $20.5 million that are COVID funds out of our total budget right now that are meant to expire, and the longest one goes to 2024. So that is the longest it goes, and we're going to maximize every chance we get to maximize it, but that is a large piece of the pie right now to help us survive.
Okay, thank you. So 14% of the current budget is comprised of COVID funding.
14% of the current revenue.
Current revenues, okay, is comprised of COVID funding that will expire at some point in the next couple of years, 3 years, okay. And is some of that money is required to be spent a certain way? I mean, I would assume that some of it has.
Yeah, we have to provide instructional services for like the educational or learning loss. And so this past summer, for example, we did summer school for and programs for the elementary. We provided transportation, the whole 9 yards, which we had the largest participation that obviously we've ever had because we did have the transportation. We fed the students. Those are the type of things that, from an academic standpoint, that we would do to support and use that funding. And that's what we budgeted in for the next 2 more years so that we can still offer that over the next 2 years, trying to catch students up where those gaps present themselves. And when we say that, that is real. Students that were at home working on virtual platforms or in whatever fashion have fallen behind and continue to fall behind when they do so. We have a virtual program, and it's set up to support them, but we only allow students who are successful in the program when they apply. You just can't go and hang out in virtual, otherwise you get sent back to a base school or asked to leave the program. So just to clarify that, I wanted to say that when I had platform too.
I appreciate that. So is it my understanding then that a lot of these programs that you've mentioned, outside of the capital improvements, I think we all saw the presentation, but a lot of the programs, the nurses, the extracurricular, the teacher availability or trying to hire teachers the best you can, when those COVID funds expire, those programs would essentially expire without funding? Is that what you're saying?
Some of them will, and it's going to depend on what takes place. A lot of it's going to depend on we've actually been building we're kind of putting our money aside for a rainy day. So we want to be prepared because it's inevitable. It comes. We've been very fortunate. I know Mr. Holmes is back here, obviously helped in managing, and we've got great budgets that have come through in the last 2 years, expecting another good one. So from that standpoint, we're on solid ground, and when things finish, we have enough to pad us a little extra. That's what we're hoping to do. But ultimately, you're at a foundation level. You're not going to be able to do the things that are being projected up there with the funding that you have. Not long-term,
Okay.
especially if you're going to continue to grow and have to add classrooms.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate that response and that detailed information. I think a couple of things I'd like to do to wrap this up. Well, one, I do appreciate the nurses in the schools. My family has gone through a circumstance where I've got 4 children. None of my children have ever been to a nurse once. And now I've got a son that goes to the nurse 5 times a day, every day, with type 1 diabetes. And he's going to the Rosa Parks Museum next week on a field trip, and there's going to be a nurse sitting with him. And and that nurse leaving means there's 700 kids at Wetumpka Elementary.
We have support built in now.
Right. Now you've got to have another nurse to backfill.
I know y'all laugh, but it's a major issue, and you have some really ugly situations take place. I mean, we have people putting catheters in places that you would not believe they're having to put them, and some of them you have to call because they can't actually legally do it. I know Suzanne could tell you. So when we start talking about what's taking place with in medical requirements in the school system, it's significant.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay, and then the last thing I'll say is, maybe the second to last, I think it's important for everyone here to know that the objective of tonight was for all of you here and for the community at large through the media and other ways to have an idea and an understanding of what the intent of the school board's pursuit of an ad valorem tax increase. I think it's important for all of us to know what the vision is, what the expectations are by the Board of Education, what they would use those funds for. Our role as a county commission, we are elected by the same people that the Elmore County Board of Education is elected by. And for just a quick bit of Civics 101, the process by which this may or may not occur is the Board of Education passes a resolution, the county commission then considers and makes a decision on supporting that resolution in so much as it advances to the state legislature, which then would have the opportunity to put it on a future ballot when the people of Elmore County would have an opportunity to then make the decision with regards to the viability of the presentation that we saw tonight. I think it's important to know, if I remember correctly, spring 2023 is the anticipated time frame. Is that? January, okay. So January 2023, so that's 11 months from now, when it potentially would be on a ballot for the people of Elmore County to vote on. And I say all that to say, that means that we have 11 months for real conversation in our county to determine whether or not this is something that's needed in our county. That decision is not made tonight, nor is that decision going to be made in 3 weeks at the public hearing. The decision at that time is whether or not it advances to the next phase, which would be the state legislature and then subsequently it being on a ballot. And I think that that's important to note, and I'll sum it all up with this. If you've taught in an Elmore County classroom, not just for like being a guest speaker, but if you've taught in an Elmore County classroom in the last 10 years, raise your hand. Okay, I have too. And I've done it, I did it. I taught math. I'm one of those certified math teachers sitting here that they can't seem to hire.
I can hook you up on a Teams contract.
And I say all that to say, I think that we do a great job of education in Elmore County. We have tremendous assets in teachers, but as with all things, we want to build our community up. We want to improve the quality of life. So I look forward to continuing this discussion to our public hearing in 3 weeks, which will be, publicized, and we'll make sure that we have an opportunity to do that, and then we'll move on from there. So thank you very much, and you and board members are available for any questions for any of us or anyone in the community over the next 3 weeks. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we will proceed to our next item, discuss approving American Rescue Plan project allocation, approval to include authorizing chairman and COO to execute necessary documents to carry out allocation plan and includes the necessary budget amendments to include projects in the fiscal year 2022 budget. Mr. Byer?
Mr. Chairman, since Congress approved the American Rescue Plan back in March, we have discussed and contemplated how to best use these funds to invest in our community. We have reached out to other municipalities and other partners like the Board of Education to talk about the best ways to invest the funds. Previously, you have taken action on our temporary premium pay and a water tank rehab project in the city of Tallahassee. This plan tonight would allocate the entire $15.7 million allocation. You have those projects in your packet, but just as a quick summary, that would put $7.1 million in water, sewer, public safety communication upgrades, a little over $700,000 in public health upgrades, and then it would invest in the temporary premium pay, the administrative costs, cybersecurity upgrades, and public works investments in equipment, upgraded equipment. So that would be the plan. We would be asking for not only the necessary budget amendments, but the flexibility to carry out those. For the example, if one of the water or sewer projects comes in under budget, another one comes in over, that we can use that flexibility to make sure the spirit of these projects are completed.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from commissioners regarding this? I'm grateful we finally got to a point where the federal government provided the necessary guidance for us to be able to expend these funds. It took a long time for us to have a final rule that allowed us to actually implement and use those funds for these necessary improvements. So thank you. Our next item, discuss approving parameters resolution to proceed with the issuance of county general obligation warrants to fund capital improvements and authorize chairman, vice chairman, and COO to execute the warrant purchase agreement. Mr. Byer?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is the resolution that will start the process on the bond issue for the economic development projects that have been discussed for months and months. This will include the 17 Springs portion that the county is committed to, along with investments here in the city of Wetumpka to, similar to what Superintendent Richard Dennis mentioned, related to some of their recreational facilities and upgrades. We also have a caveat in the list of projects that if any of those were to come in under budget or fall through, then we're able to do investments in the public safety sector as well.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments or questions from commissioners? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed. Consider authorizing COO and/or chief engineer to place orders for motor graders and heavy-duty trucks, dump trucks, as part of the county's equipment rotation program for the fiscal year 23 budget cycle.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we would typically bring this to you in the beginning of the budget process. Normally in the months of July, August timeframe, we'd be asking you to go ahead and authorize the order of these type of pieces of equipment and trucks due to the lead time in getting delivery in the early part of 2023. With our supply chain issues that we're experiencing, we're being told that if we don't place orders now, we may not get machines for the first part of next year and trucks for next year that would allow us to keep our equipment rotation going. So similar to the bus program that you heard with the superintendent, this is a program we've been doing for the better part of the last 15, 16 years. Every 3 years, we're trying to rotate these heavy-use vehicles and our motor graders, keeping our operational costs down. And this is just a necessary step to try to keep that program in place. Last time we rotated was in the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. So 2023 is our scheduled rotation.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. We certainly appreciate our staff staying on top of this so that we don't find ourselves going through the motions in 6 months thinking we're getting the heavy equipment that we've gotten used to rotating and then finding out that it's 12 to 18 months out. So We appreciate the relationships that y'all have with these vendors that allows us to know well in advance when and if we may have an issue and allow us to prepare accordingly. Next item, consider authorizing chairman to execute memorandum of agreement with the Montgomery Metro Communications Cooperative District.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Keith Barnett, our county EMA director, along with Chris Dozier, our 911 director, has been working with several agencies, including the county, to work on this digital radio system and partnering with the Montgomery Metro Communications Cooperative District. I give Keith a hard time about all these acronyms, but this whole agreement is full of those acronyms. So, but this also couples with part of the investment that we're asking you to approve in the American Rescue Plan, which is to invest money to put in necessary communication towers to improve radio communications for all our first responders and our law enforcement agencies. There's also a added benefit that will be at no cost to the project to things like our Public Works and the Board of Education in terms of improved radio communication. So it goes away from the old VHF system and goes to the digital system. So Chris and Keith have done a lot of work on this. The sheriff has signed on to this program as well. This vastly improves, even without the towers going in right now, vastly improves his radio communications. The additional towers will create a much better environment for all our law enforcement and public safety personnel moving forward.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, Chairman, I'd just like to make one comment. I believe most people don't realize what our communication system in the county, what function it serves. We've got two of our senior members of our volunteer fire service in the county and an assistant chief here. They can tell you what happens when our radio system goes down in the county. They've experienced that. We've got one particular chief here, and you've got some of your territory, Joe, that you can't even get coverage, as I understand it. And so this has been a priority of our commission, working with the 911 board for a number of years. I'm just glad we're at a point now we can act on this and to help improve the communications for all of our first responders on the law enforcement side and also the fire side. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you. All right, our next item, consider petition for reimbursement of excess funds from tax sale of real property by Michael D. Smith for 29-100515000001400. Mr. Courtney, has this been reviewed and satisfactory to your legal standards? Yes, sir. All right, thank you. Next item, consent docket, approved travel memo. Personnel notifications, notification of promotion of Peyton Fuller, dispatcher Tier 1 to dispatcher Tier 2, effective 1/21/2022. Notification of promotion of Edward Oliver III, deputy, effective 1/30/2022. Notification of resignation of Christopher Swaney, corrections officer, effective 1/31/2022. Notification of hire of Camden Moore, corrections officer, replace D. Bozeman, effective 2/7/2022. Notification of resignation of Chase Shaw, investigator, effective 2/18/2022. Notification of hire of Carissa Weldon, tag clerk, replace S. Ivy, effective 2/13/2022. Notification of hire of Amelia Cartwright, tag clerk, replace L. Henson, effective 2/13/2022. We will now have reports to the commission. Mr. Byer.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, in front of you, you've got a copy of the ARP bond ad valorem plan. So if you have any questions after reviewing that, that's the latest version. I emailed you some last week. I think this has the latest facts and figures on there. I also wanted to update you on a few dates. Today, EMS RFPs were due, close of business, so we will have the EMS board. They'll be making that recommendation to us on how to handle the next cycle of EMS services. Our residential garbage bid is due on the 17th of this month at 10 a.m. We plan to have that on our agenda for the 28th. Superintendent Dennis mentioned this, but the Wetumpka Tennis Complex, we're rebidding that, and it'll be in March 2nd at 1 o'clock. So those are just some upcoming events that affect services. Many of you get calls or contacts about that. Also, I wanted to bring to your attention, you have two documents in front of you. You've got the Goat Hill Final Report, which talks about the outcome of the special session and how the state legislature allocated their ARP funds, or their first tranche of ARP funds. Some opportunities for our water and sewer boards in there. We'll also be checking to see what comes about with broadband. I understand that, based on the communication today, not to steal Commissioner Mercer's thunder, but I think there's some advancement of those today. But I also want to bring to your attention Senate Bill 157. It's actually introduced by Senator Barfoot. It covers our area, about log trucks and exempting their weight restrictions. The way the bill is currently written, I was actually in a committee last week to testify. They limited the number of people that could testify, but the way that the bill is currently written will be catastrophic to county roads. The state was there to testify as well about the impact on theirs. I think the comment they made was they had 7 posted bridges statewide. If this goes into effect, they have well over 350 that will be posted immediately with the passage of the bill. We'll be in a similar boat if they go this route. So there's ongoing conversation about that. It did get out of committee with just a voice vote, but we'll be continuing to work on that. I just want to make sure y'all are aware of that. And before I leave, I'll have a follow-up conversation with Representative Holmes about that as well. The last thing I had is in your packet, you've got a copy of our 2022 spring cleanup flyer. We'll be posting those out on social media and getting the word out here soon. You all should have 10 copies, except for Commissioner Hines. He asked for 50. I'm assuming that means he's about to hit the communities hard. But we'll get those out. And we're actually doing an entire weekend this year. PAL's changed up, and instead of doing a focused weekend, they're doing an entire month. Our weekend, with the help of Commissioner Hines and Commissioner Daughtry, should be matched up with the 2 lake cleanups as well. So we should have a good opportunity to get some exposure for the county in terms of the cleanup operations. One thing I will say on the flyer is we're putting a deadline of April 13th, which is a little over a week away from the cleanup, to have your teams registered. You are more than welcome to clean up after the 13th. We just can't guarantee we can get you supplies, because we're going to be spending that last week getting supplies to everybody. And I know the commissioners had a number of teams that contacted them at the last minute. It's just very hard to get those out, in the last, in some cases, the last few hours before cleanup started. So, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have in the waiver report. Y'all have any questions or comments of me?
Thank you. We appreciate that report. We'll now have reports from the commission. We'll begin with Commissioner Hines.
Just wanted to do a follow-up on our spring cleanup. As y'all all know, when I was elected, my pet peeve is cleaning up Elmore County. And that's something I think the whole community can be involved in. We had an outstanding cleanup this last year. We not only did a spring, we did a fall also. So this year, we got together, Commissioner Daughtry with Lake Martin, the Renew the Lakes with the power company, and the Hobo Association of Elmore County with Lake Jordan. This year, we put our dates together. And it's going to be April the 22nd on that Friday to Sunday the 24th. And all they'll have to do is go on our website, touch in, register your team. I'm going to brag on Wes Rogers at Elmore County High School this last year. He loaded a bus up because they had to have community service, and he took them out there, and they picked up. Also, the Stanhope Elmore's teams done an outstanding job, the golf and the track and several other teams, and several from Wetumpka High School. I'm making a challenge right now to all the schools and our Board of Education here tonight to go out, and our superintendent to challenge each school that every sports team goes against and see who can pick up the most trash. There's some big, healthy football players and band members out there that could do an outstanding job picking up a lot of trash. And here's the great thing about it. All you got to do is register. We will have your bags there for you. We make it easy. We will have your vest for you. And then on that Monday morning, our Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Franklin, has a team that's put together with our Highway Department, and they'll go around where we have designated the piles to be set, and they'll pick it up. So there's no way you can say, hey, I can't do it, because you can go out on a Friday afternoon, you can go out on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon or Sunday after church. Maybe your church group will get together, your men's club. I hear all the time about all our churches and what they do. Well, I want them to step up on this, and I want them to get involved with Clean Up Elmore County. And let's see which church can pick up the most trash. Let's see which athletic team can pick up the most trash. The Lions Club and all your clubs out there, who can pick up the most trash? Your sports teams, your commissioners here, they were well involved the last 2 times. Every one of them was out there with groups and picking up trash, and we filled a lot of dumpsters. Just along with the Hobo Association last year, it was 5.5 tons. It was over 400 bags, if I remember right, for Lake Martin that they picked up, just in their pickup. And we had over 400 bags. But since we've started, we've gone over 3,000 bags of trash that we picked up. And you know what? We won an award, Elmore County did, with our program. And I want us to win that award again for Elmore County for cleaning it up. And I'm looking at each and every one of you tonight. You have equipment, you have residents around you in your neighborhood. Let's pick up. Let's pick up a mile from your house on the 24th, 22nd through the 24th. And you don't even have to do it like our Mr. Ritchie said. You can do it before and after too, but we will pick it up for you if you register it there. And again, I want to thank our highway department for all the hard work they do. They're working short-handed right now. They're about 6 or 7 employees short. And if you know of anyone that's looking for a job, we need operators, we need dump truck operators, we need laborers. And so send them out to our highway department, and we've just created a new pay program for them, for our whole employees that will help entice them to come out there. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Daughtry.
I want to specifically commend our Elmore County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Franklin. Most of you heard about the very difficult incident down at Claude Road on January the 30th, where one of our deputies was shot. Thankfully, he's going to recover. Suspect was taken into custody after a 7-hour standoff, and has been charged with numerous charges. But, you know, that's something I think we take for granted quite often. Our law enforcement officers that put on a uniform every day, not only in this county, but everywhere, they put their life on the line. And Sheriff Franklin, I know, was personally out there for hours and hours negotiating or trying to talk with the subject. And our wish would have been that nobody was injured, but certainly they did the best they could, and it came to a peaceful end in the end. And we're certainly appreciative that the deputy is going to be okay. In fact, he was down at a training session, I think, 3 or 4 days after he was shot, not participating, but observing, so a tough guy. And I just want to say thank you to all our law enforcement officers, especially in this county, for what they do for us, and may we never take them for granted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Mercer.
Thank you, Chairman. As we know, access to broadband is something that's extremely important to all of us, and with the legislature currently in session, they're continuing to do what they can to facilitate the expansion of broadband. They recently allocated over $191 million of the ARP funds that the state has to broadband-related expenses. There's also 2 bills currently in the legislature that, if they are passed, it would serve to allow DECA, who handles the allocation of the state grant fund dollars, to participate at a higher level with these providers to expand broadband. There's also a separate bill that will require these grant-funded projects to provide higher speeds. Currently, they require broadband is classified as a 25.3 speed. This would require 100 by 100 speed, which is very important, for our citizens that either don't have access or do have access and need a faster speed. Just one other item, Chairman. I just want to make sure everybody knows that on February the 19th, the Millbrook Revelers crew, Mardi Gras crew, will have their parade in downtown Millbrook. There'll be festivities going on in Village Green all day, and the parade will start at noon and it'll take place on Main Street. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Chairman. In reference to healthcare in Elmore County, I have a happy report that our COVID numbers are continuously dropping. We are now averaging for a week of 90 new cases. So continue to please wash your hands and stay healthy. Hopefully, the Omicron is going away so we can return back to normal. That's all, Chairman.
All right, thank you. I certainly appreciate my fellow commissioners and their comments. I too commend Sheriff Franklin and all of our deputies and public safety officers for their efforts in that challenging situation on Claude Road. I think that brought to light even more, I guess, put more focus on some of the mental health challenges that we face, not only in our community, but, throughout the United States and the world. I think as we see instances like that and tragedy strikes, it's sometimes we pay attention to it for 12 or 24 hours and then we move on to other parts of our life. And I hope that that's not the case, that we both locally and on a state level are truly dedicated to serving the people in our community who have mental health issues, not only the individual, but the families who are trying to support and help that individual as well. Henry certainly got me excited. Henry knows how to get me going when he talks about winning and competition and things like that, because I really like to win. So I will...
Commissioner Stubbs is here, I'm gonna pick up more bags again than he did.
Bart pays people to pick up bags. I do it. So anyway, I think that we can definitely encourage our schools, churches, businesses, everyone else to get involved in the coming months to participate in our spring cleanup. I will now turn the time over to Brittany for important calendar dates. All right, thank you. We'll reconvene shortly. Commission business meeting dated Monday, February 7, 2022. We'll call this meeting to order. We will begin. I will offer an invocation, following which Commissioner Mercer will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this opportunity to gather together this evening as citizens of Elmore County. We are grateful for the opportunity to serve, to learn from one another, and to grow as a community. We are grateful for the safety in which we enjoy, for the those members of our community who serve in various capacities. We're grateful for our military, and we're grateful for our leaders. We ask Thee to bless each of us, that we might have the Spirit with us as we make decisions. We ask Thee to bless our community with safety and peace, and we ask Thee to help us all to follow the example of our Savior, Jesus Christ. And this we say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
All right, Ms. Brittany, would you call roll?
Commissioner Hines?
Here.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Here.
Chairman Stubbs?
Here.
Commissioner Mercer?
Here.
Commissioner Lewis? Here.
Proceed now with our regular business. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 24, 2022 commission meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the memorandum of warrants for the period of January 15, 2022 through January 28, 2022?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Proceeding now with new business. Is there a motion to approve setting a public hearing for Monday, February 28, 2022 at 5 p.m. to consider requesting a local constitutional amendment to increase investment in education, public safety, public health, and broadband?
Motion approved.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the American Rescue Plan project allocation approval to include authorizing chairman and COO to execute necessary documents to carry out allocation plan and includes the necessary budget amendments to include projects in fiscal year 2022 budget?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve parameters resolution to proceed with the issuance of county general obligation warrants to fund capital improvements and authorize the chairman, vice chairman, and COO to execute the warrant purchase agreement?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve authorizing COO and/or chief engineer to place orders for motor graders and heavy-duty trucks, dump trucks, as part of the county's equipment rotation program for the fiscal year 2023 budget cycle?
Motion approved.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve authorizing the chairman to execute memorandum of agreement with the Montgomery Metro Communications Cooperative District?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve petition for reimbursement of excess funds for from tax sale of real property by Michael D. Smith for 29-1005150000140000?
Motion approved.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the consent docket as presented in the work session?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
We will forego the personnel notifications. Any additional reports to the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Brittany?
Commissioner Hines?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yes.
We are adjourned.